Hello everybody, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to be tying a variant on an absolutely lethal stillwater pattern called the Cruncher. The hook in the vise is an RX nymph hook, size 12, but anything with a long shank will do nicely. My thread is UTC 70 in black. The tail and hackle is some game hen in furnace, and for the body I'm going to be using some pheasant tail fibres. The thorax on this fly is going to be made up of some peacock herl, and I'm going to be using two ribs. The first is some holographic red tinsel, and the second is some red copper wire. So, let's get started. I'm going to cast on my thread just behind the hook eye, make a few turns to secure, and then snip away the excess. I'm going to spin my thread flat and run it all the way down the length of the hook shank, right up to the bend. This is going to help me start to build a nice even underbody that we can wrap our pheasant fibres over later. So I've taken a small pinch of my furnace hen hackle here, and I'm going to tie that in at the tail, check for the length, and I'm happy with that, so I'm going to secure down the butts and run my thread back up to the start. My ribbing materials are going to be the next thing we tie in, and I'm going to make sure to run them all the way down the length of the hook shank to keep things nice and even. Here I'm tying in my wire on top of the hook shank. This is going to give the body a little bit more depth rather than it rotating around to the side. I'm going to park that out the way on my materials clip, and then I'm going to tie in my tinsel. This is nice little holographic tinsel, gives a bit of sparkle and a bit of a shimmer. And again, I'm going to put those out the way on my materials clip like so. Keeps it out the way, and since we're using the rotary function later, it'll stop everything from getting tangled. I'm running my thread back down, and I've taken a bunch of about 5 pheasant tail fibres here, and I'm tying them in from the tip and just securing it all the way down to the base of the tail. This is going to be wrapped to make the body of our fly, a bit like you would on a pheasant tail nymph. So I'm going to use my rotary and just making sure to keep those fibres nice and parallel, build up a little brown body. Obviously you can change the colours on this fly to suit your liking, but I find that red can be really quite effective. I like to fish this one as a bottom dropper or a middle dropper, and it can really work well when the trout are taking nymphs or buzzers. So my first rib I'm going to wrap towards myself. We're going to cross the ribs over, which is going to make a little braided effect. It works very nicely. So I've made about 4 wraps there. I'm going to secure the tinsel down and snip away the excess. Now my next rib I'm going to wrap away from me, and I'm just looking from the top down to make sure I'm getting nice even turns and that everything's crossing over. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to secure everything down, some wraps in front and wraps behind. I'm bringing my thread up to support the hook shank with my bobbin holder, and then helicopter off the wire. I've taken the thread back down to the base of the thorax, and I've snipped the brittle ends off 2 strands of peacock herl. Now I'm going to twist together those strands to make a little dubbing rope. I'm using my rotary again to build up a nice little chunky thorax for this fly. I'm happy with the length, so I'm going to tie off the peacock herls, a couple of wraps over, and then we can break those off. Nice little fluffy thorax. I've prepared my hen hackle by taking the barbs off the bottom, and I like to tie these in from the butts. Some people prefer to tie them in from the tips, but I find that it's strong enough as is. This is one of the rare times you'll see me using hackle pliers. I normally prefer to do things by hand, but here it's quite a short feather, so it's just going to give me a little bit more leverage. I'm brushing back the fibres as we go around to make a nice little umbrella-shaped hackle that's going to sit really nicely in the water. Made about 2 or 3 wraps there, so I'm going to make a couple of turns over the hackle and secure it in front. Pulling away the excess there, and that's the fly finished. So I'm going to whip finish, do a couple for security, and then snip away my thread. Give this one a go. It's a great pattern and can be really, really effective, especially over winter. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.